Hey y'all, it's Paula Dean. Just kidding. It's me, Joe Gilder. Hi. Got a really fun drum mixing tip for you, and it's really simple. And okay, here's the story. Working on this mix for a client, and it's something that I'm not doing, taking on new client stuff right now. This is something I promoted about a year or so ago, where I would mix your song and do a video just for you of me mixing your song. So I was doing that the other day for a client, and I was working on the drum mix, and it was okay. It felt fine, but it just didn't have that little thing that made me happy, that took it from okay to, oh wow, like I'm really happy and like excited to have someone hear these drums. And I want to play that for you, but instead of just jumping right in and playing it, I want you to guess what it is. So in the comments below, try to like close your eyes and don't look at the other guesses. I'm going to play it for you 2 times. The first time will be without the secret, and the second time will be with. So I will be making one change to the mix, and I want you to guess as to what that change may be. Okay? You're going to hear the tracks you see on the screen. There are all the blue tracks. I'll zoom it in a little bit so you can see them all. Not muting or unmuting any of those. You'll be hearing all of those both times. The first time will be without the secret sauce. The second time will be with the secret sauce. Leave your comments and guesses below as to what you think it is, and then afterward I will come back and reveal who's behind the curtain. Okay? Let's do it. By the way, this is way more fun if you listen on headphones or listen on studio monitors, and also make sure you're listening in HD because the audio quality is much better there. But even on your phone, I think you'll hear this. But to be a good sport, put in your earbuds, and then let's do this. Okay, let me make it a little bit easier for you. I'm going to flip the mojo on and off every bar now, so you'll hear it in context without the playback stopping. Okay, here we go. This is 100% not fair, because if I was in your shoes, pretty sure I would not guess correctly either. But you're probably hearing there's more of a space to the drums. So I'm guessing some of the guesses are going to be that I added a reverb plugin. Some guesses might be that maybe I turned up the room mics, or maybe saturation or something like that. Let me show you. Here's what the super secret mojo was, and it's not super secret. Right here. Now, if you're familiar with either me or Studio One, you've seen me do things like this a lot. But this right here is the moneymaker. This is the red Light Distortion plugin that comes with Studio One Pro. I use it a lot on bass to add some grit, but in this instance, I'm using on the room mics. So this is kind of a fun story. I was mixing this song, sent it off to the client, the mix one for revision requests, and said, hey, the drums sound great. Here's what I did. I'm really happy with them. And he said, oh yeah, those are Tim Horsley on the drums. And I was like, I knew it. Actually, I didn't know it, but I was so happy because Tim Horsley's my drummer. If you've heard any of my music over the last 10 years, the drums are Tim Horsley, with the exception of one. But anyway, Tim's a great drummer. I'll put his link, remind me to put his link in the description below. You should hire him. He's got a whole new studio set up, and he is crushing it with the drum sounds. you will be happy you did. Anyway, but here's what the raw room mic sounds like, which is already cool. It's not a huge room, but the way he places it, it ends up adding a lot of vibe to it. Balanced, even, you get some sense of space. Now, with the room mics, usually I don't like there to be a lot of low end. So first thing I did was add an EQ to just clean up the low end and take out some of that wah-wah of the snare drum. Okay, that's no big deal. And this is the first mix that I let you listen to without the mojo, without the red light distortion. Sounds like this. Like I said at the beginning, sounds fine. Sounds good. Could totally be happy with this, but there was just some sort of vibe I wasn't getting. So I took the room mic, and sometimes a lot of folks, especially around Nashville, they love to run the room mics through some sort of hardware compressor, like a distressor or some of these old gnarly tube compressors or channel strips that just dirty up the sound. And what happens, here's the thing. Distortion is kind of a form of compression. It, in addition to adding distortion and making things more square wavy, they're also killing the dynamics. That's why you have feedback on electric guitar when you crank the amp, especially with a lot of distortion. When you crank the distortion pedal, you get a lot of feedback because the lower, quieter levels are being turned up, louder turning down. Does that sound a lot like something we know? Right, compression. So if you think of distortion that way, and you're thinking, man, I want to really bring out those room mics or do something vibey to them, compressor could be an option, or maybe skip the compressor and reach for some sort of distortion or maybe saturation, but I like to go all the way to distortion. There's several settings like we got hard tube, bad tube, transistor, fuzz, op amp. I typically use the soft tube or the fuzz are the two that I use a lot. So let's listen to what it sounds like. You're listening to just the two room mics with that EQ that's on there, and then I'll turn the plug-in on and listen to what it does. Totally disgusting and should be offensive. It's just an offensive sound. It sounds like something's broken, and I love it. Now, when I A-B'd this for you, did you think, maybe you thought there was a little something to the room mics, maybe you thought extra compression, maybe you thought saturation and distortion, would you have thought that it was that aggressive, like this? I mean, it sounds like we ran it through a preamp and accidentally turned it up all the way. Or like your kid comes in and turns up all the knobs and you don't realize it, then you track the drums and then you say, oh no, I've ruined the room mics. Not so, my friend. Listen to what it does to the overall drum mix. Very cool. You can't even pick out that it's distortion, but something cool is happening. Now I'm going to click the little power button on and off so you can hear the difference as the drums are playing. Here we go. Now, one argument might be, oh, it's really just turning up the rooms. That's all you're doing. So you can say it's the distortion, but it's really just adding volume to the room mics. Well, let's test that. I'm going to put the mix tool plugin on this channel, and I'll tell it to turn things up by 3 dB. And we'll turn it on and off, and let's just see if you're correct. So this will turn it on and off by 3 decibels. The distortion is off. Here we go. Now, that does sound better. I think the room mics do work better at a higher volume, but was that the mojo that we had with the other? Let's compare. Nope, it's not the same. I was actually worried for a minute there it was going to sound the same, and my whole premise is blown. But that's why it's fun to test your hypotheses. We're scientists, kind of, in the studio. I have a hypothesis. I think distortion will sound better than compression on these rooms, and I think it'd be better than just turning up the rooms. Turns out I was right. I love being. Good job, Joe. Great job, buddy. Okay, so what is happening here? So aside from bringing up the room sound and giving everything a little more of a stereo feel, it also does something to the kick and the snare. The kick and the snare feel punchier, and that makes sense when we go back and listen to just the room mics. Kick, snare, and toms are the loudest thing, and they're getting crushed by this distortion, and it makes them punch through. When we blend that distortion over here with the dry drums, or the mixed drums without the distortion, you get the best of both worlds. You get the clarity and the snap of the dry drums, but you get all this like beef of the distortion, and you don't even realize the distortion's there. I've tricked you into saying, man, those drums sound huge. Here, let's do it without, and then I'll add it back in. Listen specifically to kick, snare, and toms. It just does something magical. It reminds me of when you hear people talk about a magical, vintage compressor, and they're like, I always put this on my room mics. It's amazing. It's 1,000 years old. You can't buy the tubes anymore, and I love it. And you think, that's great. Wish I had something like that, but I don't. Now you do. If you have any kind of distortion, even like a guitar amp emulation, you could probably dial in to do something like this. But yeah, if you want to know my settings, screenshot this. This is what I use for this particular track. It is just magical. File this one away into your bag of tricks because it is so good. I'm so pumped up about this. Hey, thanks for sticking all the way to the end of this video. Again, my name's Joe Gilder from Home Studio Corner. If you haven't subscribed yet, you need to, because there's 10 years worth of stuff like this on this channel. Grab yourself a beverage and just take a deep dive. I'd recommend starting with maybe my rules of EQ and rules of compression videos, which are fabulous, and will kind of really clear the air. Oh, I'm sorry, that people tell me they're fabulous. Will really kind of clear things up for you if you have a little haziness as far as how to use EQ and compression. And then if you want to learn my process for mixing, kind of how I go from start to finish, I've actually written up an ebook for you that you can have for free. I know, ebooks on the internet. Who does that? But it's really great. It's fairly short, a quick read, but it'll help you have a structure. No matter what type of music you're mixing, whether it's 2 tracks or 200 tracks, this will give you kind of a guide and a framework to use as you work through your mix. And you can get that at 5stepmix.com. Thanks so much for watching. See you later.